Good evening. I'd like to call the Wednesday, March 27, 2024 Douglas Planning Board meeting to order. First up, attendance. We'll do a roll call around the table. Jacob Schultzberg here.
Mike Schletzman here.
Aaron Sokrat here.
Mike DeRose here.
Rich Preston.
Mike Zwicker here.
Matthew Benoit.
And Mike Greco's down the hall.
He's coming.
So he'll be here in a second. And excuse absence from Ernest Marks. That's it. A&Rs, there are no A&Rs. Public hearing. 7 PM, public hearing, Douglas Street Realty application for site plan review, SPR-240305, industrial building, 140 Davis Street, possible votes. And I will read the, find it.
Yes, good evening, Mark Allen with Allen Engineering.
Oh, 1 second, Mark.
Sure,
I just gotta read the notice and open the hearing.
sure.
I got it. All right. Name of applicant, owner, Davis Street Realty Trust, date and time of public hearing, Wednesday, March 27, 2024 at 7 PM. Subject matter of the hearing, the applicant is requesting approval from the Douglas Planning Board pursuant to the Douglas zoning bylaws, section 9.4.1, site plan review. Project description, this is a proposed development of a 7,725 square foot industrial building on a vacant lot, totaling 11.3 plus or minus acres. Project site and location, the project site is located at 140 Davis Street, Douglas, Mass. Assessors map 192, parcel 1. Plates of public hearing, Douglas Municipal Center, resource room, 29 Depot Street, Douglas, Mass. Any person wishing or interested or wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. Visit the website and agenda and Zoom information. Copy of application is available for review during regular business hours in the Douglas Community Development Department, 29 Depot Street, Douglas, Mass. 01516. Public hearing is now open. Mr. Allen.
Yes, thank you very much. Again, Mark Allen with Allen Engineering Associates, here with Karen Keegan, who is in the room with you tonight and has the presentation board in front of you. I just wanted to sort of introduce the project. Mr. O'Leary, Ed O'Leary, owns a business in town, O'Leary Welding, at 124 Davis Street, and Mr. O'Leary is looking to expand his business to the property that he owns next door. That new expansion includes the proposed steel building, one-story slab of about 7,800 square feet, and Karen's going to take you through the nuts and bolts of the site plan application. But this is an industrial zone on Route 16 in Douglas, and Mr. O'Leary will be doing welding operations in this building as well. And this part of Route 16 is not necessary, it's not Mass DOT jurisdictional, so there will be no Mass DOT curb cut application with it. All of the necessary utilities such as stormwater, on-site septic system, on-site well, private underground propane will service this new building in the industrial zone. We have had the property flagged for wetlands, and we have also filed a notice of intent with the Douglas Conservation Commission. Our hearing is next week. We are under peer review with Graves Engineering. We haven't gotten anything back from them just yet, but we anticipate their comments coming back soon, and would look forward to addressing those technical comments in the future. But I'd like to turn it over to Karen just to kind of go through each of the plan sheets so that you know exactly what's going on at 140 Davis Street. Thank you.
All right. Karen, just name and address, please.
Karen Keegan, Allen Engineering, Bedford Avenue, Hopedale. Mr. O'Leary has the building next door. He's at 126 Davis Road for his welding business. He's looking to add a building onto his other property, which is an 11.3 acre parcel. There is a Tennessee gas line that goes through the property. He proposes to build in this little area in between his building and the gas easement and not further. He's proposing, again, a metal building that's housing a warehouse where he will be unloading materials and storing materials there. He's also has an office space in the front of the building where he will run his office out of that area. We have a paved area in the back. bits of a larger plan. Okay, so we have a paved area around the building coming in off of Davis Street. There is 2 directions of traffic going in and coming out. It is 30 feet wide at the area here, and I believe it is 60 feet wide at the street. The 2 lanes of traffic can come in here, go around the building, but cannot go out through his other property. His other property has 2 lanes of traffic that is going to come in and go around where the trucks will be coming in through the building and exiting out through the front of the building. So they'll come in, they'll unload, and exit from the front of the building. The area between the building and the edge of the area where the basin is about 24 feet. He is 80 feet off of the street. He is 16 and a half feet off of his abutting property line. And he is, I believe, 396 feet off the back of his property line. Again, this is all vacant land over here. He is, let's see, he is proposing a detention basin in the front area here. This is a gabion basin. It's gabion baskets are 2 by 2 by 4 foot stone wire meshed baskets. They are stepped in 2 foot integrals to the top of the basin to hold the water. It is a detention basin where it will leave the detention basin into a stone area and then going into the wetland area itself. At the top between the basin and the building, he has a guardrail that's going to be proposed because, again, you're right at the edge of the basin, so you don't want any traffic falling into that. He's proposing parking spaces that he's proposing. He's required to have 18. He has 18. On the plan there is shown 18 parking spaces, including 1 handicap. The utilities on the project, a septic system. He has a well on his lot that will be shared with the new building. We show a water line going to that new building. The septic system has been designed but has not been approved or submitted to the Board of Health because we're waiting approvals just to make sure nothing gets moved. He has a gas tank proposed in the front with bollards in front of that, which will be connected into the building. He has overhead wires, electric wires in the front. He will cross the street with those to a pole and then go underground from there. He's got drainage in the building that is to be designed by others to a tight tank. He has roof runoff that's going to go into some Caltech chambers that are designed in the front area right here. He has three drain manholes, 3 catch basins, 1, 2, and 3. He has 2 drop inlets that are coming from that'll be used for the drainage that comes off of this slope right here. And they will be going into both ends of the gabion detention basin with 2 oil and grit separators, 1 on each end. The grading on the lot, he comes in at a 3% slope into his driveway coming up here. The area is fairly flat, but this back wall is to be designed by others. It's a we proposed a geotech stone slope, reinforced stone slope at a 1-to-1 slope. We have a sign to be put out front here. with grading, landscaping. On his lighting, he will have wall-mounted lights along the building, two on this end, one on each this end, one in the middle, two here, one standing pole here, one standing pole there. Again, he's got his landscaping area, his sign, and I believe that's about it. Oh, here's his, I got a floor plan of his building, and a schematic of his building. Does the board have any questions?
Mr. Benoit, if you can just start off with anything you have.
Sure. So they met with our tech review board, and I have one comment from the water district involving the shared well that's being shared with the other property. Cannot have more than 25 people combined between both buildings for 60 days a year because it's a shared well. It's, if it were to be a condition, it's something impossible to enforce. So I'm just recommend they consider doing its own well, so they don't have to abide by that condition.
Right.
What is the reason?
Yeah, so if I could, Mark Allen, that 25 person limit is what the state DEP water supply district considers a public drinking water supply. Any well that services more than 25 people for more than 60 days a year has to be considered a public drinking water supply. Mr. O'Leary only has a handful of employees, and the additional space is not going to increase his employees over that number or even get close to that number. So it is through the Board of Health where employees and occupancy would get determined. So we're very confident that we would not trigger the public drinking water supply thresholds.
Okay.
Also, are there any requests for waivers from the landscape requirements of our bylaw? Which landscape and parking areas?
We'd have to look into the waivers. We didn't submit any waiver applications. We did supply, I believe, the specific number of trees and shrubs that are required, and a couple of the mulch areas. We chose to keep the vegetated wetland area, obviously, as a major buffer to Route 16. And then the rear of the property is the gas easement and the remaining 9 acres of untouched land. So we were heavy on the landscape at the entrance, and we believe that is in compliance, but we can double check if we need any waivers.
See section 5.3.4, landscape requirements for street frontage and non-residential uses. Landscape buffer area except for approved access ways at least 20 feet in width as measured from the layout of the roadway, providing frontage. Buffer area should be planted with grass, medium-height shrubs, and shade trees. Shade trees should be planted at least every 35 feet along the road frontage. Now, I understand there's a wetland along a lot of your road
Right,
frontage.
so this area here will not be touched within 25 feet of this wetland buffer. So you have a 25-foot buffer that's going to be running around in this area here, plus the wetland and anything to the street that will not be touched. So the only area of disturbance will be from the 25 to the edge of the property here, this area here, and behind that area. So there is quite a bit of a buffer from this area all the way around to here. So this is not touched at all.
Are there any plantings in that corner?
This corner right here, we have planted,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the vast majority of Mr. O'Leary's frontage has a guardrail associated with it, which has a steep drop off to the wetlands. So we're accessing the property at the very northwesterly portion of the frontage, and it's only about 90 feet wide, of which that's where we're highlighting our proposed landscape. But we'll revisit that section, Matt, and absolutely, if we need any sort of additional permit coverage, we will get back to you on that.
And we have not heard from Graves, correct?
Right, we sent this.
We have not.
For peer review, outside of the public hearing, but we sent it out to Graves for peer review. Work program was signed, check was received, we're just waiting for the review back from Graves.
Is that all you have for now, Matt?
Yes, sir.
All right, board, any questions, comments?
If I can, through the chair, where is the sign gonna go?
The sign's gonna go right there.
With them
Yes,
on it?
yes.
Any proposed layout or size? Yeah.
No.
Something like what he already has, or not sure?
I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be
Something-
similar, yeah, same size roughly.
Yeah, gonna be like we have on the other building?
Yeah. Like four-
Sir, could you just state your name and then?
Ed O'Leary.
Okay, thank you.
If I can, through the chair, that'd be maybe something where we do it all at once, the sign and everything, as far as what it size and things. I think it's in the bylaw.
The sign permits, and make sure that it's selected and everything. Okay, so the planning board and their site plan review process can review and approve signs,
All right.
right? Residence Article 9 will not apply to any signs reviewed and approved by the planning board under site plan.
So that's why I brought it up, because we did all that. That way there, this is, so then it's done for the client, all one shot.
So what we generally do through the board, what we generally do is show a location of the sign, and hopefully that, checks the box for the planning board as far as where the sign is going to go. And then if the site plan is approved, I believe the town requires that sign be approved through a different board, but that's up for discussion.
The board can pass on it, or the select board decide.
Or we do it just in one shot if we're able to.
Right. I think that would be
Yeah. Is it a separate hearing? Or, okay.
be part of the review.
Yeah, so why don't we, if they're all set with doing that.
Could ask them to submit the sign drawings with their site plan.
Right, because on these here, that's why we went through all that sign by law, the whole 9 yards, so that people wasn't having to go between this board, that board, and all the boards. When this all comes in front of the planning board, it can all be done in one shot.
Makes sense.
Yep, that makes sense. We can get with Mr. O'Leary and get some sign details for you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
If I may, the sign is unlit, no spotlights on it or anything, there's nothing on the on the site plan
No
here.
lights, no, unlit, correct.
I was just going to say, I'm glad to see this. I've used O'Leary, they're great fabricators, and this is not, I think it's just, to see them expand here, it's such a good thing for our town, and that's what I got to say.
I just have a question. The Tennessee Gas Pipeline, are they aware of the work and are they okay with the work? Or do they need to be?
They've been made aware of the application. We will need to send them any approved site design plans and orders of conditions before they will engage our physical construction. They have issued us a manual as to how to go about, approaching them with the earthwork, but they will not engage us until we have approved site plans and an order of conditions.
Anyone else on the board? Questions, comments?
No,
No,
straightforward.
still waiting for the peer review.
Yep.
All right. This is a public hearing. Anyone in the audience with any questions or comments or concerns with this? Anyone online have comments or questions with the 140 Davis Street? Seeing as none. You gotta wait for peer review. Probably continue the hearing until the next week. Do you think that's enough time for the next meeting?
The 10th,
Is it?
continue this public hearing to what, April 10,
Let me just make sure.
2024 at 7 PM?
Yes, April 10th. Yeah, April 10th.
Yeah, continue the public hearing to April 10, 2024, 7 PM.
Motion made by Mr. Zwicker,
Second.
second by Mr. Preston. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In a couple weeks.
Yep.
Okay. Time is 7:22, 7:15 PM, public hearing continued. New Sherborne LLC, application for special permit on a scenic road, SR-30. Scenic road permit application.
And for the chair, I've done the mulligan,
Mullen.
I know, I call it the mulligan.
And
It's
through
all
the-
a mulligan,
and through the chair I have as well.
Okay, thank
so
you.
we can participate in this.
All right, Mr. You want to start with you, Matt, or?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Benoit.
So upon receipt of the revised plans and reviewing the right-of-way and the stone wall being located out of the right-of-way, I asked town council for an opinion on the matter. And their opinion is that the stone wall is not within or on the boundary line of the right-of-way, is not subject to the scenic road bylaw. I believe these stone walls are within our jurisdiction.
Okay. All right. And I'm gonna try to combine the complaints for this into this matter as well. In regards to the complaints for the work that has been, or the access road, I wanna maybe call it, is that the same order, the same findings from town council and,
Yeah, with regards to the stone wall.
okay.
It's outside of the circle. However, I think what this board should do is make a recommendation to the Conservation Commission to issue an enforcement order for the gravel that's been placed within the jurisdiction of the well
Okay.
and conservation.
Okay. All right. So we'll start with you. Yeah, name and address.
Yes, Kevin Demers from Decreed Engineering, Mendon Street in Uxbridge, our office location. We are here, we submitted revised plans, but obviously with the jurisdiction of the town council, we're no longer here for the stone wall approval for special permit, so whatever respectfully board's decision for, either dismissing the matter or, accepting a withdrawal without prejudice, we would be open to that. And we are proceeding with the Conservation Commission, so they'll have a chance to review the environmental portion of these developed lots.
Okay. And as you would also probably need to get the driveway open and permit through the
Correct.
highway super as well. Okay.
And our intention is to create a, disturbing stone walls. Our intention is to restack those, and Mr. Badcourt has quite a bit of rock he's, amongst the sites that he's dug up so far. So his intent is to definitely reuse that rock and create even further stone walls within the parcel and filling in the gaps on the existing stone walls closest to the roadway.
Okay. So with that, Mr. Benoit, would we be looking for a motion to close or a motion for them, or have,
Public hearing and then potentially take a vote to take no action on the matter outside
Okay.
of jurisdiction. I would like to recommend, at least to Mr. Betancourt and the applicant, that as you just said, Mr. Demers, that they consider repurposing the stones from the driveway, assuming you get Conservation Commission approval for this, you repurpose the stones within to try to maintain the character of the stone wall. And work on the stormwater plan with the Conservation Commission and submit with your highway driveway opening plan.
If I can to the chair, what's the determination to take the stone wall out of the scenic road? How was it determined?
The stone wall is not within or on the boundary of the right-of-way. It's not subject to the scenic road bylaw. Straight
Who determined the right of way and the boundary marker?
from the survey that was submitted.
Okay. I just want to make sure
been
that
confirmed.
the Ts and the,
Is it,
everything is checked off.
through the chair, is it staked by the surveyors with boundary markers where the front yard is set, where the front property?
I don't believe so, but
We'd like to see that, and I think that is important, isn't it? To make sure that, because we just hear it hearsay, that, you know, I deal with this all the time in all my projects, that we put boundaries in and we,
I
you
don't
know,
think we're in position to ask for anything at this point since it's outside of jurisdiction
how is that determined?
by town council. It's determined that it's outside of the right-of-way and that's what they interpret the general.
But how does town council know where the right-of-way is unless it's been bounded?
It's been sent in by this survey stamped by a professional engineer.
Okay, so it's done, and the rock wall is shown outside of the right-of-way. Fine, okay, that was my question.
The highway superintendent also,
Yes.
did he have a,
Yeah, him and I both looked at this together.
Okay.
All right, here's what it is.
all right.
That wasn't known when the work was started.
What?
It wasn't known when the work was started that the stone wall was outside of the bounds of the scenic road.
So what's in front of us now are lots 10 and 11.
Yep.
Those walls have not been touched to date.
The walls haven't, but the trees on the walls have.
And those trees are, one of them's within the wall. I saw it.
Yeah.
It's right in the wall, yeah, it was like a 16-inch tree.
Right, it was not known at that time,
Yep.
but it is now.
Yeah, right. So,
Right.
But if it was in the right-of-way, and it ended up in the right-of-way, then we have, it's tough to know after the fact and ask for forgiveness. We want to be right. We want to support our development in town, but we also like to know and have step-by-step, so it isn't after the fact that a 16-inch tree might be removed and then say it was in the right-of-way, then we got a little bigger problem.
Right.
So I just want to go forward, that we have to be, you know, we have to make sure that this is presented before us,
Right, of course.
not after the fact. And that's what your point is, so I think.
obviously, the applicant thought it was within the right-of-way because they made the special request.
Right, he wouldn't have been here for the, yeah, I guess that's your point.
Yeah.
So on that matter, then driveway openings, et cetera, are removed from our hands. That's up to the highway department.
And
And there's a request for determination of applicability submitted to the Conservation Commission because both these driveways encroach the wetlands across the street. So,
Especially with water runoff.
right, and through the chair, with one of them, especially on 11, being 6 to 8 feet higher, it's going to have to be cut back in order to mediate for the homeowner, whoever buys this property, so he isn't going up a 30% incline, you know, and then the water runoff that may come from those sites should not exacerbate any issues on the street. So how do we know that? And is that not our jurisdiction? Who is that?
yeah, it should be through the Conservation.
Conservation, okay, but I said it, so we can all know that that could be an issue, and I know we probably
It could be,
believe that.
yeah.
So, but they're A&R lots,
Correct.
and they have to go through the highway for driveway opening.
Right, but,
If the highway allows it.
Yeah.
The highway doesn't have.
right, because one lot, one property can't put water on a street or onto another property or into the wetlands across the street with silt runoff and everything. So just, we all have to be careful. And a responsible developer, I'm sure, wants to be careful and present a great product, because it's going to be upscale products that are going in town here, and we like that, but let's all be careful, so.
That's good.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Zwicker, second by Mr. Sokrat. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to take no action on this matter because it's outside the planning board's jurisdiction.
Excuse me, sir, I do have a question.
Can-
I do have a question.
So
You have to
we're
wait.
not,
Just wait a
the
minute.
public, so this matter, it fell outside of our jurisdiction, so we're closing the public hearing.
What happened in regards to the trees that were removed within 15 feet of the middle of the road? And that would have, I believe, fallen within your jurisdiction? Correct me if I'm wrong, I just wanted to see what happened with that, the trees that were already removed.
What is that, 15 feet?
That was brought up 2 weeks ago. And there was supposed to be the tree conservator here as well?
And then there's nothing inside the stone walls, no trees that were taken away inside the stone walls, so that will be
But
on the stone walls and behind the stone walls.
through the chair, what is the width layout of that very tiny road? I mean, is it more than 30 feet? Probably.
It's a variable width, but it is laid out on a stamp plan by the
But I guess, I'm sorry, through the chair. The point was, and I did the Mullen, so I think I could rewind. And there was an attorney here that asked the question, he kept saying about the 15-foot layout. And I don't know, is he speaking from the center of the road, meaning 15 feet? And if the layout's only, 20 or 25, I mean, please advise, because I think we'd like to have clarity on this for everybody.
It's just the layout is put on a plan with DE, and it shows the limit of the boundary of the right-of-way.
But what is the right-of-way width?
The right-of-way is variable throughout.
So at that point, is it 20 feet, 25 feet, 30 feet? I mean, what do we,
Put a scale on it.
well,
Yeah, it changed.
That's what a variable right away is.
So I'm assuming the town didn't adopt like a 15 feet easement right away or 50 feet easement.
Oh, at that
right away.
time,
It's
right.
a variable.
okay, I just want to dot the i's, cross the t's for everybody. I mean, this is all, yeah, thank you.
For a motion to take no action because this is outside the planning board's jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So anyone want to make that motion to take no action on this request?
I'll make a motion to take no action on this request.
As it's outside of our jurisdiction.
It's outside of our jurisdiction.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Schlesman, seconded by Mr. DeRose. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain, which is fine.
I mean,
I know.
I'll say aye, it's too bad, but, I mean, we can't do, as guidance of town council, I mean, we can't do nothing. It's outside of our bounds.
Yeah.
The bylaw is vague.
Right.
And town council ruled on it, and this highway
We
superintendent
need,
confirmed, and
It's between highway and COMCOM.
Right.
and as far as the complaints, I hope we addressed what we could that was within our scope. And if it wasn't, it was referred to a board or personnel that it was within their jurisdiction.
Would the board like to recommend the Conservation Commission issue an enforcement order for the gravel that was placed on lot 12?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Had findings of the complaint is
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
clear.
I think so. Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
General
Make that a motion.
consensus. A motion?
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Zwicker, second by Mr. Sokrat. Any further discussion on that? Seeing as none, all those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Thank you.
because that shouldn't have happened.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
thank you.
We only have one tooth, not a lot of teeth. I know.
Additional business, 8 Southwest Main Street accessory apartment extension, possible votes. I don't think anyone's here for that. Mr. Benoit, standard.
The very standard application, the tenant is still blood related, it's their son, and it is a 900 square foot accessory apartment, and extension for 3 years is what's requested.
Board, any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Looks good.
I'll entertain a motion to grant the,
Extension for
Extension.
8 Southwest Main Street.
made by Mr. Zwicker, second by Mr. Preston. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Through the chair, may I ask a question?
Just talk a little louder.
Sorry. Through the chair, may I
Yes.
have a question? Mr. Benoit, when town council makes a determination on a matter such as we just discussed, is it possible to have him attend these meetings so that he might be able to weigh in if people have specific questions?
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea.
It's not always available, but we can always ask.
Yep. Yeah.
He did write something.
Yeah.
He had correspondence in writing at least, but
Yep.
yeah.
But I also agree with what you're saying through the chair, because at times there's certain entities we can't answer that he can, even though he wrote a letter.
Take our hands out of it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if the
So-
bylaws are not specific, then we need his expertise to be able to best
Yes.
explain to people what the rationale is.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Okay, and Oak Street complaints I will take when we discuss
I
PW
recuse
Solar.
myself.
I'm not doing it now, I'm gonna move it.
Oh.
Yeah,
I'm out of that one.
I'll do it when that comes up. Master plan, any update?
Yes, our master plan committee met for the first time last Wednesday. We organized, we named Mr. Preston as chairman, and
Congratulations.
we had our vice chairman.
Carol Gogolinski.
Carol?
Vice chair, and Linda Brown as the secretary.
Yeah.
Prior to the meeting, Ms. Schlesman and I had a meeting, and I wasn't sure if 3 members constituted a quorum, but it does not, because we're a 7-member board. So she could attend the future meetings with Mr. Preston, Mr. Swicker. I just wanted to make that clear. We held a meeting, we did a SWOT analysis, actually on the back of that board. But I think it was a good kickoff meeting,
Yeah.
very well. And so we took a lot of feedback in, I sent that out to CMRPC. And our next meeting is
Thursday.
a Wednesday.
No, I thought it got moved to a Thursday.
I ended up moving it back to a Wednesday, the 17th. Yeah.
Can't keep moving it. I'm right. So when we're gonna go to now? Wednesday?
Wednesday, the 17th, at 7.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Ongoing development. The Cubes at Gilboa and McIntyre Aluminum Incorporated, SPR-220215.
Chair, members of the board, Todd Amori.
Hey, Todd. Haven't seen you in person in a little while. How's it going?
That is in front of this board. For the most part, it is.
Yes.
Project, I'll talk about that a little bit. This is Mitch Rauch from Clayco Construction. So we've been in front of the Conservation Commission several times to discuss some of the ongoing issues regarding excess sedimentation on the project site. Some of the main problems started right around mid-December, when there was a fairly significant rainfall, which was followed up a couple weeks later by more significant rainfall. By significant, I mean 2 inches or more. One of those storms was measured right across the street at 5 inches even. So there's been quite a bit of rainfall, as you well know, throughout the winter, now into the early parts of spring. During all of that, the exposed side slopes and areas of the site experienced a lot of erosion, a lot of sedimentation, and a lot of that washed down into the infiltration basin. The bottom portions of that infiltration basin became entirely blinded with sediment, and as a result, really, nothing's infiltrating. So it's basically acting as a giant retention basin, because since it's infiltration, the way for the water to get out is through the bottom. Fortunately, the underground tanks that we also had, I don't know if you recall that overall drainage scheme, but we had several large underground tanks as well. Fortunately, those have been a little bit more protected. The ones on the east side are connected only to the building roof drains. So as you can probably imagine, there's not a lot of sediment that comes off the roof. So that's been clean, that's been functioning pretty well. On the west side, there's a series of storm scepters, water quality units that take a lot of the sediment out, but there is concerns about sedimentation getting in there because there are a lot of catch basins and things from some of the roadways and parking areas that lead into that. So as we move into the spring and hopefully get into a little bit more favorable weather, we have prepared I think we entitled it a storm damage restoration plan that was submitted. That went out for peer review by Haley Ward. We responded to their comments in a letter, and then what we're doing and hoping to get that submitted sometime in the next couple of days to conservation, and I'll copy Matt on it as well, is just have a single drawing with some details to summarize everything that's in that report, plus everything that we agreed to on the Haley Ward peer review as well. So the general overview of that peer review is they made their comments, we agreed to pretty much everything, and we're going to include that as part of the restoration plan as well. Other things that need to go on prior to the basin being scooped out is the side slopes need to be reloamed, seeded, and stabilized. That's critical, because if we go ahead and try to restore that basin before we do that, we're going to have the exact same problem again. And it's just, I'm not going to try to count on there being 6 weeks of wonderful weather. Weather-wise, I'm a little bit pessimistic, and I think we're just going to continue in this pattern for a while. So those things have to be done prior to us getting into that. In addition, the site contractor, and Mitch will speak to this in a little bit more detail in a moment, is gearing up to start inspecting all the catch basins, underground pipes, underground conduit, and things like that, and that includes jetting them as well. So if there's sediment concerns in some of those underground pipes, they're going to jet those, clean them out, and make sure we're in good shape there. All of that will also lead to televised inspections of those large underground tanks to make sure those are going to function as they should into the future. If we find that there's sediment in there, we are going to work with Stormtrap to get those cleaned out and reset them to as installed conditions. Back to the basin, a couple of things that we had in the original report, as well as it have been asked through the peer review. We want to do 2 rounds of infiltration testing in the basin. One is going to be in the sediment and the silt, just to verify that there's nothing going out of there now. The other one is, once we pull all that back, get down into the original subgrade, we're going to do 3 more tests in there just to verify that the original design conditions can still be maintained after these situations. If the answer is yes, then we will rebuild the basin. If the answer is no, we're going to pull some more material off and retest. I think if we have to pull off that second layer of material, then we're going to get into the subgrade that was originally in that area, which, if you recall, was a large gravel sand gravel pit. So once we get down in there, all confidence that we'll be able to restore that. But again, the important thing is we've got to get all those things stabilized. We don't want to pull that back, rebuild all that, do all the testing, and start to move forward, and then go through several months of rain and have more erosion come down. So we've got to get that taken.
Just a question, is there going to be any change to the site where we have to update the site plan at all? Based off of, what we've learned and what's been peer reviewed?
I don't think so. I think, it's really going to be up to the town how we do the incorporation of the additional items inside the basin. So what we are adding to the basin is what's called a wick drain that goes across the bottom. There will be a formalized outlet structure, stick up, and then that will drain through the roadway into a riprap area on the other side. We're also adding some larger armor stone in a concentrated area on the easterly side of that road. Just in the outside of that ever overtops again, we'll want to just make sure that we don't see that road washing out like we did. So those can either be captured on the as-built, or since we do have to submit that to the conservation and to Mr. Benoit to be copied that way as well, it will be made part of the record that way. So.
Yeah.
So you mentioned this kind of going into the road or over the road. It's going under the road because there's going to be, what, a large box culvert or something?
Yeah, well, so what there will be is there will be a riser that comes up. We'll have a double grate that'll essentially look like a double catch basin grate. So as that water level rises up, it'll flow into that, drop down in and run through the pipe.
So the road's going to have to be taken apart and then...
The road has to be taken apart anyway,
Yeah.
just as a result of the storm damage that was done. What's out there today is a temporary fix, and if any of you have been out there, you can see next to that catch basin that's starting to slump in again. So it was really a temporary fix, just to get that embankment restored, and also really to protect the utilities that are in that road. So there's a sewer line in the road, there's a water line in the road, and there's electrical and telecom lines in the road. So we wanted to get those protected as well. So it was, and that whole repair happened within a week after that initial.
Roughly 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, a week to 2 weeks after that initial washout. So that was a quick job just to get everything pulled back up and get it repaired.
Safe, yeah.
Yeah, it's not, don't drive on it. There's barricades up there.
Yep.
I was actually out there Saturday night, and I was looking at there's a big frac tank with some sediment filters out there. And I'm not sure, somebody in town drives a gold Ford Super Duty. They came around through the barricades and scared the daylights out of me. I was over on the side of the tank making sure it was still running.
Yeah.
I stepped out from the side of the tank, and a truck came down through. They've driven through some barricades or some barriers, and made me jump pretty good. So if you do go out there,
Go around.
please respect the barriers that are out there, because there might be somebody in there trying to do some work, or trying to do some inspections.
So it was originally designed as an infiltration basin, so there was no emergency spillway, and the emergency spillway effectively became the road, right?
The emergency spillway, yeah.
It's not infiltrating, so it ended up going over.
It overtopped.
Right.
Yeah. When it was originally built, it worked and functioned very well all through October, November. What I did do after the damage happened, I went back and looked at some of the SWIP reports, and could see a series of photographs where all of a sudden you started to notice that basin was starting to slow down. So there were some warning signs before the real big rain events happened, and we could see that starting to slow down. Even now, we get, I think the other night was about 2 inches of rain, and that brought that thing right up. It didn't overtop, but it brought it right up, and if you look at the catch basins in the road, they're about 1.5 feet in elevation below where that pond will overtop, and the water was right up below the grades in those catch basins. So it's coming up, and it's just, every time this happens, it's slower and slower and slower coming down. So what they've done, the frac tank that I mentioned with the filters, is they've set up a filtering system to pump down that basin. They've got 25, 15, and 5 micron filters on the downstream side of that. The water that's coming out of there is quite clean. And we're putting that back into some of the underground infiltration systems to dispose of it. That's how we're keeping control of it at the moment.
Clayco, do we have any comment or any additional from you?
One
Or did, I don't know if he answered everything, but.
Todd answered pretty well. We started all our cleanup today, and then just to get into the catch basins, the contractor was out there today with a vac truck backing out those basins. They do have a jetting company ready to go to jet those out once they've already cambered the drain lines once. They were clean for the most part, other than minor sediment in the bottom, but they'll camber them again and then jet those out as necessary with the vac truck to deal with what falls in there. I've also asked them to put back in silt baskets in all the catch basins at this time. And so we're getting through the process, and then pending weather, they're going to start regrading everything and moving forward with stabilization.
Yes.
So, this, it's paramount for everyone. So, regrading the pitch, you're bringing in new material that isn't, because everything's been washed out of that material, so it's silty. That's there now. What are you going to do?
Some of the main material washed away. We do have a plan to bring in additional truckloads of topsoil or loam and regrade that all back in. Plus, when the storms had, it rutted everything up, so we just can't plant on top of it. So the stone that you're seeing is going to be recovered and brought back to the specifications that were shown on the drawings before seeding, and then we have the stabilization blanket over the top of the seeding.
Right, right. I mean, is there any structo material that can go in and below your soils that you're bringing in to help the town grow the grass and everything, you know, the root systems to grow? I mean, there is materials and meshes and things.
I have to defer to Todd if there's anything.
I was wondering, I've seen it, but.
Yeah, usually that gets applied to steep slopes, and by steep I mean 2 to 1, 1.5 to 1. We've got, they're all about 3 to 1 slopes out there. There are some areas at the base of the soil nail wall where there's some steep slopes, some 2 to 1 slopes. And that may be, you know, we may need to do that in those areas.
Would it be helpful? Is it inexpensive, the materials, fiberglass product?
Actually, I wouldn't use fiberglass. I would try to use some kind of a coconut mesh. Because it's long-term, it's biodegradable. You want it, once the roots get established,
Of course.
yeah, you kind of want it to be gone. If you use the fiberglass or the plastic style mesh, it still creates a kind of a funny interface with the roots, and you run the risk of, you know, years down the road just having that leaf stuff off. So we like to use something that's biodegradable.
So tell me one more thing. So we are using for ground cover, it takes a heavy duty foot traffic, and it holds it, the roots are deeper. Clover, is there any talk about that? Who cares whether it's grass or clover?
We can certainly talk about it, yeah. No, clover is a great idea because it also solves the maintenance question too.
Correct. And it's also friendly to bees and insects. I guess that might be around, but.
No, it's an interesting,
So white clover in particular.
White clover?
Yeah, and you can buy it in bulk through Johnny Seed, and because we just bought 50 pounds of it for stabilized, not stabilized, but replanted. That's also friendly to beehives.
What, how quickly does that tend to grow and catch?
It's quicker than, I understand it's almost like an annual grass, that it's quicker than perennial. You know, I know we use 50-50 sometimes because you want to get something out quick, but then you want the perennial to take over and deep root systems.
In the following year, it comes back pretty well?
Yeah, because otherwise, if you do too much of the annual, the following year, you got nothing, you know? So, it's just a thought, I'm not in the middle.
That's an interesting,
White clover.
it's something I'll play out.
Okay, thank you.
I got one thing through the chair, not to do with this stuff, but on the site. It was brought up, I think 2 months ago or so, about the trees on the emergency road. I was in there first time 2 weekends ago, and I noticed when you're in the one side of the building, you're looking right at that guy's house. And I think he's in Uxbridge, the neighbor. And that's why those trees were originally designed to go up, was so that all the truck lights won't be shining at his house. Any update, any status? I know it was talk, and then all of a sudden it just went quiet.
Yeah.
Because that was a big deal when this all was originally set up, was for, he had no problem with what was going on, but he knew once it was built, the potential of a problem was going to be there, and that's why these trees were a big deal to help shade his house, because you have a massive warehouse like that, and it's going to be a 24/7 operation. It just is. He's going to be having lights all night shining on his house up there.
No, the trees are important, and I saw Bob just snuck up to the dinner, so I'm sure he'll opine on that. I wasn't aware, somebody reported that 40 trees were going to be taken out, and no, we can't do that. We can't get rid of 40 trees. Mr. McIntyre does want a gap in there. We were working with him through in the last fall, trying to figure out, okay, is it 2 or 3 trees that we need to gap and relocate? But 40 is I don't know who reported that, that's a number that should not have been mentioned. So there will be a gap in there, and the ones that are removed for that gap will redistribute, and perhaps maybe infill in between some of the other ones that we've done. But the trees will get there. I'll be honest with you, since the storm damage has started,
I know,
it's been a little bit of a backward.
Oh, yeah, no, and
We'll go back to-
and I totally understand, but if you're by that tank, and you stand there and you look straight up that road,
yeah.
you're looking right at his front door.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's all I'm getting at. I mean, you can't deny it, it's as plain as day, and he's the only poor guy that's gonna have that in his front door.
Well, I remember when we were
So-
talking about how that emergency road was going to be designed and everything, going through the fact that, you know, as we came in, we wanted to drop down quickly, so a lot of those lights would just go right into the bank.
Right.
But up on top, where we couldn't drop down that quickly, we wanted to screen it heavily, so.
Or even if that means a screen buffer or whatever up there, but something to really be looked at.
I've been working with Bo McIntyre for the past few months and presenting.
Who are you?
Bob and Eric, Economic Development.
Thank you, Bob.
Been working with Bo McIntyre for the past few months, and it's a long process working with Bo as far as what we can put in for trees. We know that access where he wants to drive across. Obviously, no trees there, but there's no reason we can't put trees up the slope. His big concern now is along Northeast Main Street, West Hartford Ave at that point in time, because that actually is Uxbridge. Clayco took out a hill, which is supposed to be on the drawings. The neighbors complaining they want that hill back plus trees on top of it. So it's a work in progress.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it, through the chair, is it something that we can, I don't know, say once a month, have a status update on how that's going? Because as things progress here, I mean, the building's up, parking lot's done, everything's moving along except for the stormwater, to make sure that this guy is protected, like we promised the neighbors and the butters. You know what I mean?
Through the chair, I was supposed to meet with Bo last week, and he did not show up in Uxbridge. He was not in Douglas last week, but he is on my to-do list.
Track him down.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the update.
Mr. Bunny, yep.
Yeah, also want to introduce I believe this is called a nail wall. There is a stormwater issue, and I'll just gonna send this along.
Yeah, there's a picture.
I think it made it into a package.
Yeah, it did.
Did I?
It did.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to hear what Clayco has to say.
That was filled today. And then there's a proposal on the table to add a swale working with Todd to add a swale at the top of that to help divert water away from the back of that wall. So not only was that top filled all the way down, but they addressed that at the bottom also today.
Is that sufficient? Is that standard practice? How do you prevent it?
Those nails travel back anywhere from 14 to 21 feet into the slope. That slope was undisturbed to begin with. So the water filtering down behind it is what caused that. Is it typical? It was not a concern based on the engineer's report from the Soil Nail Wall Company. But again, just to avoid it going forward, we need to look at some other measures to help divert water away from the back of that wall.
So that'd be up on top.
Right.
There's like a kind of a path up there.
That path was originally by Bo,
Okay.
by McIntyre Loan. The area directly behind the wall had some growth on it at that time, but I was asked today to add more seeding up there to help establish more growth.
And just if I may, that type of wall, it's a soil nail wall, and as Mitch mentioned, it's constructed by putting nails 14 to 21 feet back in. Usually the nails go in at a slight angle, and generally about the same depth in as the overall height of the wall. Unlike what most retaining walls do, that doesn't have very much earth pressure on it. So as far as, if I had seen that on some kind of a modular block wall, that would have been a pretty scary situation. Here, the concern is we just don't want anybody walking up there. We don't have concerns about that wall coming down. The way they're constructed is they're, unlike a block wall that's done from the bottom up, these walls are actually done from the top down as you excavate down through that embankment. So you put a thin layer of slurry up against the soil that you've excavated, get the walls in, and then that's a lean concrete that's basically sprayed onto those nails and plates. So it's a bit of a unique bit of construction.
If I can, to the chair, so what you're doing, the tiebacks, like you're doing in Boston?
Yeah.
So you drill it, you fill it with grout, normally on your way coming out, you have a tie going all the way in,
Yep.
20, 21 feet.
Just stealing it.
The whole city of Boston's held up by tiebacks. I've been in a lot of holes. So,
Do we have anyone on or in the audience from third-party consultants or anything, or any updates from them, or?
No. Brandon Dennis is here, but I don't think there's no wall.
Board, anything else? Anything else?
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Nothing for Legacy Circle? Okay. Ongoing development, is, business park at Legacy Circle.
So, if I may, through the chair, I make an observation. I went to the site and I looked at, particularly because I was told that there isn't much of a buffer left. So I went and measured, I took photographs. There is a residential house. I think it's residential, there's a house next door to the right as you face the property. And on Google Earth, I have probably a 30-foot buffer of trees between, I don't know whose property was on, likely it's on the property of the development. And this house has screening from this property. There isn't a tree left. So either the guy doesn't live there anymore, has not made a complaint, I haven't heard of a complaint, but this house is looking right through the property. And I can pass this around on Google Earth, the buffer that was there, and I can't get the date off that, I don't know when that was, but it's probably 60, 70 feet of buffer trees along Davis Street, and now it's 15 feet. So, and I did circle in our decision here that they were to, doesn't say 100 feet, I get that. But it says that they are maintenance of the kind of vegetated buffer along Davis Street, and that the project will significantly not be visible from any public locations. So this is on page 5 of 12. This is C and D sections. It's just like there. It's like a sand pit right in the middle of the street. You know, like you can see right through there. The buffer is evergreen, but you can see right through it. And it's been taken away from the residential house next door where it did exist. And now there's nothing there. Okay, so I put this out to the board and to the public, and I kind of like in the spirit of what we were trying to do there, we were very supportive of this business, and I'm not trying to be punitive, but I think they should, if this is what the board feels, that it wasn't taken in good spirit and they took down all these trees and they exposed the house, that they should do a replanting of some sort. It's going to take years and years to put back what was taken out. But if I'm going down a wrong path, let me know, but that's what we see, for real.
If the board wants to ask them to come in and kind of explain what they've done, and if they plan on vegetating, that's within our purview. You could ask them to come in to explain what they've done up there.
Does it match the approved plan?
The approved plan, we granted a waiver for them to not have to maintain a 100-foot buffer, but there was also those conditions to say that it's supposed to maintain.
Right, and it was already there, but they took it out.
Yep. Yeah, so,
Bring it on. Sorry.
yeah, if we can just research, just do your thing, find the decision and everything, and Just because it's not in our packet, so I don't,
Sure.
I don't want to go too far into it because it's, you know, not on here for votes or anything like that, and they're not here, so.
We'll ask them to come to the next meeting.
For the, on the 10th.
If I can say one more thing through the chair. Yes, it's an industrial zone. Yes, it's Davis Street, Route 16. Yes. But there's no excuse. We don't have to make the place look terrible. You know, if it's easy to maintain what's there, and that's what we expected, that's what should be done. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, so if we can just get a copy of whatever decisions there were, and just because, like I said, they're not in front of us, and they're not in front of us, so
That's it.
we'll reach out to them and have them come in. All right, BW Solar at Oak Street, special permit dash, SPR-200203 and SR-200203. And I will start with the complaints for this.
I'll recuse myself to the chair.
Just wait a second, yeah. All right, so in between our last meeting, we received a complaint from residents at 41 Oak Street. Mr. Benoit, if you can start us off with this?
Sure. Just going to this.
Okay.
There's obviously a lot here, but one of the first things, they asked for a records request, which was withdrawn a few days later on the 18th at 9:06. Do you want me to just, how do you want me to tackle it?
Do we have like a general response?
I provided updates to the Rossies, which I believe they received today. So I just asked if they were satisfied with the responses, I guess.
Are you asking that now?
I suppose, yes.
Okay. Should I come up? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'll take the comfy chair. Lori Haupt, 41 Oak Street. So we did go over the responses. I think some of it is very helpful. We continue to be concerned about the dirty water that's coming out on the McCallum side, on 37 Oak Street side, and of course the water that is coming onto our property, whether that's through groundwater increases or stormwater. But overall, I think that you've addressed, what you can. I think there might have been a few points that weren't noted, but it's nothing of value, I think, at this point. So that's all I have.
We'll just discuss it a little further. I just wanted to say one thing on it. In it, Chairman, I just want to just correct it. Told Blue Wave on 313 that they can lumen seed the property now. That was never said. It's on the video recording. I just told them that the window is approaching for that to happen. And we're not gonna have a debate back and forth. I'm just gonna, your letter is public, I'm responding to it, Lori. So that's just what we're gonna do for this.
I was just going to clarify. That's fine.
And if it's within their phase to do lumen seed, I don't have to give them the okay.
If it's within their what?
Within their phased work.
Phase, okay.
So I never told them that they can do it now, is that the window was approaching for them to do weather-wise, lumen seed and do trees.
My response, Mr. Schultzberg, was that you said that we're approaching the season to get seed down and get grass growing. Developers did not construe that as permission from the chair to do so, and I confirmed that with them when I say it.
Through the chair, nor do you have the power to do that on your own anyway.
Right.
It takes a whole board to do that.
Right.
But I know it says here, this was not voted on by the board, but solely decided by the chair. It wasn't voted, it's not, nothing, it's been on our agenda as ongoing development. Like I said, a few times, we get updates from the developer, and we get correspondence from peer review and town officials, and we're not taking votes on anything at this point. It's just a dialogue, open dialogue with them and getting the updates. So nothing's come across our table for us to vote on with this. That's all I have to say for that for now.
The only other thing, sorry, Lori Howe, 41 Oak Street. The only other thing I would like to note, I'll address the other issue via email. We have not heard from Blue Wave regarding concessions or reparations. So we were told that Jason would call Bill that following Monday, Bill Rossi, and we did not get that call. Thank you.
Did anyone else on the board get to read this?
Yeah.
Brandon. How's it going? Good. Anything, was anything in this that you were able to comment on or within your Concom jurisdiction?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a couple of comments I just responded to.
Susan, Kenny, through the chair, just
My name is Brandon Faniff. I am the conservation agent for Doug.
Brandon expressed concern, stormwater runoff coefficient, the land associated with farming. Site was designed based off a certain runoff coefficient. The land is plowed, it's not much different than having bare soil during construction. Even if it has, say, sheep, the runoff coefficient is different than hay because the sheep constantly keep the grass short and their hooves disturb the soil, creating bare spots if they keep kept in one area for too long. It's a very good observation. And we're not sure what the form of agriculture is going to be on the site. It's not been disclosed to us yet.
Right, and during a walk a couple weeks ago, there was talk about them doing row crops, like corn or some kind of a gourd or, and that's when the bell rang, like, well, then that's, you got to plow that, you end up having a lot of exposed soil, so I don't know if that's the best idea, and then, so it got me thinking. So it's a concern of mine.
everything's answered.
Forgive me for saying it, but I've reviewed enough solar projects to be able to say that when someone says we're going to do what's called the pollinator mix, right? It's a joke, in my opinion. It ends up being weeds and scrub grass in the end. You have to spend a lot of time, nurturing that kind of a flora. So, yeah. And then I have one more.
Yeah, it was about
It was about conservation, and why we're not talking about it more.
And I just wanted maybe to say it out loud then too. One of it was, the board members are not, are engaging very little and seem afraid to ask questions. Every decision is unanimous. I just don't think we've had anything we've had to make a decision on since this is, since like December. It's just kind of been an informative thing.
Right.
But for a while, we used to just get updates, and it would just be in our packet, and there's an update from the developer, there's correspondence from peer review, it's in your folder for your read and pleasure. That's how it was done for a while. I've thought with the sensitivity of this project and everything going on, that it would be good for, and with Matt, that those involved come in and we actually have this discussion in the public forum. So if the board's not satisfied with what I'm doing with that, we can reorg when the time comes up. So,
Through the chair, that will not be happening, at least from me, you know. Mr. Zwicker?
If I may, I mean, it's true that a lot of, it might appear that we're not saying much, but part of that's because we read through this before the meetings, and a lot of the things are outside of our purview. It's information that has to go to Conservation Committee, or things that can't be decided at that point anyways. We don't know, for instance, you know, we don't know what sort of crop or agricultural use is going to be. So it's a requirement for the project. At some point, it's got to be decided, and the appropriate people will be involved. And if that's us, then we'll discuss, and I mean, we're, in some cases, it's just, we're limited.
did you file a complaint with us, Mr. Zwicker?
Mike Zucker, 46 Oak Street.
Oh, did you file, I'm trying not to have a big open dialogue with this. I would like to just get into the discussion, hear the update from them. I brought Ms. Rossi up and let her comment because she filed this complaint.
All right.
All right. All right. Blue Wave. And per usual, name, title, address, company, and an intro of who's online.
Yep. Elvira Stridesburg, project manager, Blue Wave.
Pat Mahan, J. Bates & Son Civil Contractor, Clinton, Mass. And yeah, on Zoom we have Jason Smith, Blue Wave, Greg Morehouse, Mill Creek Renewables, the EPC, Jeff Murphy with Beals & Thomas, engineer of record.
All right. Mr. Moore, anything we should start off with, or just, I don't see anyone with Haley Ward on, so I don't know.
Haley Ward couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
Corey Broder got out of jury duty today.
Good for him.
Yeah, couldn't make it.
All right. So the last update was March 22nd. Have you guys received that last update from Haley Ward and
Yeah, I
any
had
response to it?
I kind of put it on this. I asked Corey and Doug if it was okay that I put it on there, but I put a contractor response on each of these.
Okay.
But I didn't hear back, so obviously
I assume these are hot off the press, and
Yes.
we haven't seen, Matt hasn't seen them, or Brandon.
I think I've seen these.
Okay.
Just get one mic.
Oh, sorry.
All right. So there was what, just two new comments for 1 and 2. Is this going to be Mr. Murphy? If we maybe just have him discuss what was commented from Haley Ward and just the response.
This is Mark.
Unless you want to add
Or Pat, yeah.
I can do it, yeah.
Okay.
And just obviously report from today and from earlier this week, sediment from the floor of infiltration basement 5 was removed in preparation for proposed conditions, which include a 12-inch gravel layer. The upstream area of discharges to stormwater 5 has not been yet stabilized, therefore fine sediment may accumulate in the basin, compromising the basin's ability to infiltrate. Continue to proceed with construction of infiltration basin 5, stabilize upstream areas as soon as possible to prevent fine sediment accumulation in basin 5. You know, so our response is we've swales upslope have been, have riprap installed, and exposed soils have been straw mulch and had erosion control blankets installed. Before the final loaming of the basins, all accumulated sediment will be removed from the basins. And that will be later in the project. And also kind of following up on some of the other comments are, we will be seeding the site as soon as possible, the areas of exposed loam.
Pat, do you want to talk about, since our last meeting, you guys have since put down the gravel base at Basin 5?
Correct.
Talk about that.
Yeah, that's kind of what this is referring to, is when Doug was out there, we had excavated down to we had the basin pumped down, we excavated all the sediment out, got down to subgrade, and then installed, there's a processed gravel layer below the basin to kind of help with infiltration, and that's the layer that the wick drain is in. So that was installed last week and completed before the last rainstorm over the weekend. So it's installed, it's just now the next steps will be pump the basin down again, wick drain, OCS when we have the ability to with the weather.
You had follow, yeah.
So Pat, the wick drain is in?
The wick drain is not in Basin 5.
That's what I want to be sure of.
Just gravel.
So the gravel that the wick drain's going to go in is in, but the wick drain's not in.
Correct. Yep.
Just wanted to be clear with that.
Yeah, so basically we get down to the level of the basin floor, and then there's a more permeable gravel layer that's put in to help with infiltration. That's number one comment from Haley Ward, and then number two was there was some discharge from the temporary basin along the southern property boundary and uphill of Basin 2. No flow appeared to be flowing into the abutting properties at this time. However, water was in close proximity to the property line. The contractor has slowed discharges into this basin in an effort to prevent larger discharges from the basin. Continue to monitor this area and maintain sufficient low flow such that no water enters abutting properties along the southern boundary line. Our response was we've added additional silt fence and hay bales, and the area has been monitored, and if needed, additional controls will be added to keep turbid water inside the limit of work.
Okay.
So we're pumping in temporary basins, and we're trying to allow the water to go to the southern end of the Kroll property because they're requesting more water in that area, and we're applying some flocculant as it goes down the hill to settle out any sediment that goes down the hill. I was out there with the Krolls today. They're really happy with the water getting onto their property. And as far as water going south, there is a picture in here of, I think it's in the last memo, actually.
It's on the 13th.
13th memo.
And there is a picture of it, and there's what I would consider a small amount of water on the southern abutters property, and I would characterize it as clean water, but I didn't see it in person because we went there. Matt was there, and then Brandon was there, and since then the chairman of the Conservation Commission's been there, DEP's been there. We've walked it with all of them, kind of showed them the area, and I don't see any evidence of damage from this water, or I haven't seen the water over there, but.
Okay. Brandon?
Yeah, I can agree with that. It was Doug Bush from Haley Ward. He's the person who brought this to everyone's attention, I think on the 13th. Mm-hmm. Doug showed us the area that had flooded out, and I think it's the McCollum property on the south side, and it de minimis.
And
Do we have a picture of that we can share so that the definition of flood is seen as a little bit of water?
Yeah, I don't have one with me of that, but I think if we go back to, someone had the.
Yeah.
the pictures in the 13th are not clear in this print that I have. There's not good quality pictures.
I think they're black and white.
It's this one right here. I think it's in this area. That's black. Even the color one, I think maybe the original photo you might be able to see, but the color one you couldn't really.
I think the overall point is that the water should have never gone onto the common property at all to begin with.
I mean, I guess.
Despite lack of damage.
Sorry.
I think what we're trying to convey is the little bit of water that did make it out was not flood as you actually stated, Brandon. It was actually a little bit of water in his note to link that from Douglas, or from Doug, as well as the fact that it was clean water, not turbid.
And, you know, our intention isn't to put any water that way, but I know I'd have to go back, I guess, and say that, you know, if water gets out that way and it's clean water and it's very minimal, it's not damaging the property, you know, we're not trying to send that water that way, but, you know, I guess that would be a question for, I don't know what venue that would be in, but what, you know, what the issue with that is.
I think, Mr. Chairman, what steps has Blue Wave taken to prevent that from happening again?
You know, we had too much water going into that area, I'm sorry, and then we've added additional silt fence, hay bales, and kind of redirected the water to make sure it stays inside of our limit of work.
And you saw those on site.
And there's been a number of walks since then. On the 18th, I think you twice on Wednesdays, that we have not seen any water over there. So whatever it is that Pat has done, the contractor, is working.
On that, I would agree.
Thank you. That's it for red on this. Any other updates from Jason or from Pat?
The only other one was like in the kind of like older comments that they've kind of read.
Oh, the tracking pad?
Yeah, the tracking pad arrived on site, and they're going to get that in, I think, tomorrow. Like a steel tracking pad versus the one that Doug didn't have an issue with. The
Okay. If we can try to have someone give that the blessing. I don't know if we can. Or
Haley Ward,
available?
when we want the site, Haley Ward asked that we let them know when we do the install so that they can see it. I presume it would be Haley Ward.
And if that happens, if we can just get a correspondence to you, Mr. Benoit, that it's in and he's fine with it, just so it's not lingering until the next meeting.
I don't know if, Matt, I can get with you and we could talk to Doug and quick conversation on it or something like that, and coordinate that.
All right, so what is being installed?
The yellow one that's there, they wanted something different. So we've gotten a steel grate style one, you know, like those rumble plate ones. We've got that delivered to the site.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Through you. Is the new tracking pad the same width? I know there was some question about width, it was kind of tight.
The one out there right now, you know, we have the 50-foot by whatever stone tracking pad that's out there. And then this was an additional measure we had put in. It was a 12 by 21 piece. This is a modular where it comes in like 4-foot sections. So we're going to make it so it's the width of the road, one width wide. So there can't be any kind of truck drivers cheating over because they don't want to go through it, which can happen occasionally. And we've also added cones on the side of the one that's there now to keep everyone from cheating.
Okay. Thank you.
You guys have any other updates from anything that's transpired? Not in the report or anything?
I don't think so. I think Doug's been pretty.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The update on the analysis of Basin 1.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't believe we've received anything yet from Beals and Thomas on that.
I received an email from Elvira earlier today saying it wasn't quite ready, but I was wondering if you could, maybe Mr. Murphy could talk about it, where he's at.
Sure. So the calculations are completed and they're undergoing team review. We anticipate issuing those by the end of this week.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in by the conservation meeting on April 1st.
It will be.
Which is Monday. Right, and I tell you, the chair of the Conservation Commission, if he doesn't get materials and answers on Monday, it's going to be quite a meeting.
There's a lot of,
Yes.
Keep going, I think you're say some more thoughts.
Yeah, I've got them. So, on Basin 5, that was going to get reviewed by Haley Ward to begin with, anyway. They were going to do a preliminary review of all that. And Corey Broder, right? He's had some setbacks. Unfortunately, his father passed away a couple weeks ago, so that's taken up a bunch of his time. And then he went immediately to jury duty, so, you know, and I hear these things happen in threes, so he better watch out. So he's behind the 8 ball on that. So waiting on him, but can't blame the guy for not getting to it because of that.
Board, anything?
I want to, if I can, Chair.
Yeah, Jason.
There's some thoughts that have been conflated over time from Brandon indicating there's a redesign, which is inaccurate. We clarified that with Chair of the Concom as well as Matthew Benoit, the scope of work with Haley Ward. They're reviewing the approved plans, permitted plans for Basin 1 and Basin 5. I just want to clarify that. And the calculations that we just speculated the response might be, or Brandon speculated this response might be from the Chair of the Concom, were a specific request of calculations for the construction entrance for which we are delivering in time.
Right, time is starting to run out. Yeah, Mr. Smith's correct. However, Mr. Murphy has alluded to a plan to make some amendments to flow in and around Basin 5. So I was wondering if...
We've surely taken into consideration all of the aspects of the site, its performance during construction, and those will be forthcoming when deemed necessary.
Thoughts?
I think to be continued on Monday.
Especially for Basin 5.
Especially, yeah, the Conservation Commission is a special interest in Basin 5.
Yeah.
I think until Haley Ward's review.
Haley Ward's review is going to have to wait.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying like that will give us, if there's something that has, that, it's been approved. So, I mean, if they come back with something, then
Yeah,
we won't know. They haven't done the review yet, so.
2 inches of rain today.
Yep, we had 2 inches last week. Yeah, no, just keep piling it on.
Discuss Basin 2, since we haven't talked about Basin 2 at all.
Yeah.
I think that deserves some attention. I know those folks here in the audience are concerned about Basin 2. Just wanted to know what measures have been taken for continued stabilization of Basin 2 and what is upcoming for Basin 2. What's on schedule?
The current schedule right now, we have installed inside the basin, we have that gravel layer, and the wick and stone drain is inside the basin floor now. When weather permits, we're going to install the outlet control structure, and then we're going to install the wick drain through the berm. It's pumped pretty close to dry right now, but like you said, another 2 inches of rain, so we'll be going back to it. And that's pretty much where we are now. The backside slopes have been erosion control blanket seeded. We've actually seen some seed popping on site, not there yet, but a couple other random places we've seen some seed popping, but it's where we are on that now.
When you did seed, did you put hay or any other matting on top of it?
Erosion control matting on all of it. On any of the 3-to-1 slopes, we installed erosion control matting.
And in that corner, that kind of abuts the Rossi property, what measures have been taken to stabilize that?
That whole area has been, in the one right adjacent to Basin 2, so that whole area has been erosion control blanketed from the top of the slope all the way to the silt fence. It's been seeded. We're hoping to get some growth in there the next 3-4 weeks, pending warm weather. Moisture, I don't think is a problem, but so yeah, that whole area has been erosion control blanketed.
You have anything else? When were you out? You were out there today?
Out there today, yeah.
Okay.
I had to leave early with my associate Samantha, who was able to do the full walk.
Okay.
I had to get back here for the Coops Gilboa meeting. Yeah,
Saw it happen.
Just never ending. Job security, I call it.
Anything else, board?
Washing it.
I have a question through the chair. We talked a little bit about what is eventually going to go there in terms of crops or whatever your plan is. At what point will that be relayed to us?
I think, Chair, may I respond?
Yes.
So when we walked the site a number of weeks ago, I thought there would be row crops, but I believe it's going to be hay and grass, as well as some grazing, but that plan is being finalized. And per the SMART program, I think that we have a chance to respond with the finalization of the plan towards a certain period after energization or just before. But I do know that our program manager is working on finalizing that.
Can we just confirm when that has to be in by? I know you said either before or after. Can we just get a confirmation when that has to be officially confirmed?
Yep, you bet.
Okay.
Next meeting, we'll let you know exactly when.
And that makes sense, Matt. That's,
Yeah, I mean, the agricultural needs to be considered as part of their stormwater calculation.
Yeah.
Imagine if it's going to be taking away or adding to the problem, we need to know.
do we need to know?
I guess if that, the comment is about the seeding and the previous comment that Brandon made of our seeding plan that was approved by a third party being a joke. I'm uncertain if the approved plan by the town is that. I would have a little bit more.
He was talking about using
thought towards that.
He was talking about using
But I do think
as a seed mix, and I don't think that's what you guys are proposing on your plan, is using pollinators.
Okay, just want to make sure as we're lumped in with other PV sites.
Yeah, that's different.
And in the event that there's something that you guys suggest to date that would be more effective, we are definitely open to somebody recommending that.
Oh, that's sweet.
White clovers.
I heard it was not good. We're doing it, but that's.
So do we need to know that? Or is it, just trying to get a grasp on that?
I think Brandon made a good point in his response to Miss Hout's complaint, was that we kind of need to know how that's going to affect the drainage. I think that's really important to know. And if it's going to impact that, then the calcs need to be amended.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Anything else with this? Concom's Monday?
Yes, it is. It's gonna be a
This
long one.
this coming Monday. In Sutton, when are they?
They're first and third Wednesday, so this coming Wednesday.
All right.
Monday is, where are you in over here? We're in this room Monday.
It sounds like Monday's gonna be an important meeting for everybody. All right, anything else, board?
Let's see if the public has anything to do to add.
Yeah, it's new, yeah. It's a little after 8:30, so, yeah, if the public has anything new to add, I know Mr. Zwicker had his hand up, I don't know if that, we still have that thought.
Mike Zwicker, 46 Oak Street. Has anybody bothered to take a look at the bond? The only reason I'm asking that is with the project work going on, and I'm not saying anything's gonna happen, but if people were to pull out of this project right now, I know there's not enough money in the bond to repair all the stormwater damage, everything else, the whole 9 yards. Just a thought. I know a bond was set in the beginning, knowing everything was gonna go right, straight, easy, done and over. But there's some big issues going on. Not only that, to abutters properties and everything else, the whole 9 yards, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Just a thought.
Through you to Mr. Smith. On a site walk with the conservation chairman, you had mentioned possibility of posting an adjusted bond. Is that something that Blue Wave would be interested in submitting?
Blue Wave is a point of, yeah, I think that, why don't we discuss that?
Okay.
Good faith.
So that's something you can discuss with them and
Yes.
come up with something? Okay. Does that answer your question?
And the only reason, through the chair, I brought it up is because all this extra stuff going on wasn't anticipated, but it's happening. And you want to see a mess. If this was to get dumped onto the town, I don't think there's enough funds, not in today's market with inflation, to try to make it back the way it was. So, and to repair the other entities and damage that has been done.
That's a fair new point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone? Anyone online? Any new comments or concerns? We'll give it a second if anyone. No? All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Through the chair, I'm back.
Mrs. Wicker is back.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Brenda, thank you.
Happy Easter.
That's right.
Yep.
I have to get a massive crime rate. Mr. Benoit, any ongoing development updates?
No, but I do have something administrative policy and procedure, staff update C. Previous meeting, I sent out stormwater bylaw, general bylaw for comments. I received some comments on the stormwater policy from Mr. DeRose, and I put those into the policy for the commission to consider after the acceptance of the general bylaw. I was curious if the members had any other comments about the general bylaw that we could submit.
I did read over it, and I had some thoughts, and I thought I was late to get them in because I was focused on other stuff. So with that, if someone wants to do work, and say they have an A&R lot and they want to build a house and it's over an acre disturbed, can the builder or the property owner make that application and submit a plan, or does a PE or a certified erosion control specialist have to make that plan and submit that initially?
Good question.
Because I saw in there, it said, additional fees may be requested by the Conservation Commission for permit review by a PE or other professional consultant to advise the conservation. So I'm just curious if someone certified has to be the one to submit the plan.
Yeah, this bylaw kind of follows Section 402 of the Clean Water Act, which is the stormwater section. And when you have more than 1 acre of disturbed soil, you have to apply with the EPA and obtain something called a construction general permit. And part of that permit is you have to write a stormwater pollution prevention plan. So, and it's a very onerous document. And with that goes a site plan, stamped by a PE. So yes, I would say that once you get to that level, that scope of work going over an acre, you hit federal requirements anyway.
Okay.
So I would say that the answer is going to be yes. You do need to have professionals work on it.
Through the chair, a couple questions on this. So the 1 acre, is that on only if you have a 2 acre lot? What if you have a 10 acre lot? I want to disturb 3 acres to make fields. Does this trigger? Well, Forester comes in, blazes a road by the state with a permit, and that road takes over 1.5 acres. And then you come there and you file on the permit.
If it's agriculture, agriculture is exempt.
No, it's not agriculture.
Then if it's not agriculture, then it's not exempt.
So even though a state forester marks a road, and that road is more than 1 acre long, you're saying that you need to file another stinking permit?
State forestry permit's under 61 feet, and that's an agricultural
No,
designation.
no, it's not. Not the panel forester come in and mark out somebody's property.
Yeah, I would say no, it's not exempt.
So you're putting an extra burden on this here, we're putting an extra burden on every owner in the town of Douglas. Because you won't be able to do anything. So if you buy a 6-acre lot, and you want to have a horse, and you want to clear 2 or 3 acres to have fields, this is going to trigger, and everybody's going to have to pay. So just keep that in mind. Because the only reason I'm bringing it up to the chair is, I don't quite have 10 acres, so I'm not forestry. But I hired a forester to come in and mark out a road because of Comcom years ago. That road is well over an acre long. I haven't cut it all yet, but it's well over an acre. So this would trigger, and also then make me go file more permits just to cut trees that the state says I can cut with the forestry plan.
Here's the thing, is that cutting trees, just cutting trees alone doesn't trigger it. It's the soil disturbance.
You make a road when you cut trees.
So if you pull the stumps, then...
Yeah, once you pull the stumps, then you're triggering it, but if you're just cutting the trees, no.
Unless you want to skid it, guess what?
But
You're pulling stumps.
I was trying to listen to it. Are they trying to present it as is, or is there going to be an amendment? Because I know there's something with trying to get that number smaller, too.
That was not done at the select board meeting last night. They kept it at the 1 acre.
Okay.
For the EPA recommendation, to get this under MS4 compliance.
There's also some talk about the dual-use solar and whether or not that would qualify as agriculture, because in these bylaws, agriculture is considered exempt from this bylaw. And some citizens expressed concern that somehow dual-use solar would be exempt from stormwater review.
That exemption has since been updated to reflect that, and I don't think you have that addition.
The one I have, the definition of agricultural use is the normal maintenance or improvement of land in agricultural or agricultural use as defined by Mass Wetlands Act. So I don't know what that definition is, but I don't think solar would be a normal maintenance or.
Well, here's the thing, is we don't even want to open the door to someone trying to interpret it.
Yeah.
Right, like, you know, you can make an argument, yes, well, we've got agriculture there. It doesn't matter if there's solar panels, we're doing agriculture. There's sheep there, or there's, you know, hay. And then we get into, you know, into court. We don't want that. Just put the language in and nip it in the bud.
The exemption language was updated to read, normal maintenance and improvements of land and agricultural use only to the extent such activities are allowed under the Wetlands Protection Act, Regulations 310 CMR 10.4 as amended, which as set forth therein allows certain activities on land and agricultural use when directly related to production or raising of agricultural commodities. And that covered the solar piece.
Right, and under the agricultural exemption in the Wetlands Protection Act, agriculture is defined as land that is presently and primarily in agricultural production for commercial purposes. So it has to be presently, primarily, and it must be a for-profit operation. If you're a gentleman farmer doing it for yourself or just giving away product to your friends, that does not count as agriculture.
Also through the chair, another thing, so you know, state law, if you own property, you're allowed to cut, even in wetlands, 10 cord of firewood a year if you burn and.
And no greater than half of the canopy at one time.
So,
We did that.
the CR can happen, and also trigger entities when you're making the road, we want to do that, even though the state says you can. To have more fees, more burden placed on land and all of us. That's state law, and that's permitted, and that's all done through the state. And that's a fact.
Is this going forward at this town meeting coming up? Who is conservation presenting it, or?
They're reviewing it also. This is,
Okay.
I'm presenting it.
Okay.
It's a general bylaw, so it's endorsed by the select board.
Okay. All right, so we didn't have to have a public hearing on it. Okay.
But they'd be looking for a letter of support, or at least possibly to support the bylaw. We don't need to make any if we don't feel necessary.
We just don't have it on our agenda, so, to have a vote on it, so I would have to pass
Just
on.
open to collect comments.
Yeah.
I won't, through the chair, I will not support this, because I think it's an extra burden. I mean, farmers years ago, they go in and do this kind of stuff. We come out here for a reason. If you want to clear some land, have a garden, do whatever, and you have the party to do it, do it. That's why we're here. So I will not support this one.
I'd say that this bylaw is still malleable, so.
It's been shut down before at town meetings, so.
I don't even think it made it to town meeting, it got shut down at the select board.
Are we running out of time to get compliant too? Is that something that's going on with this?
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of it, yeah, the MS4 program.
When do we have to be compliant?
Oh, good question.
And also, what are the ramifications of us not being compliant?
Those are great questions, Mr. Chairman.
Is it like chapter money, funding the town uses, or matching grants?
You know what, I don't have those answers right now, but I'll make sure that I coordinate with Mag on that.
Eligible with a lot of MS4.
Because that's probably going to be something that's asked at town meeting is, what are the ramifications of us not passing this?
Yeah, keep in mind, if you're doing over an acre of disturbance, you're supposed to file for a construction general permit anyway. So whether, the town is reviewing it or the EPA is reviewing it, somebody has to review it. And when I think about the folks in town that may be thinking about clearing a couple of acres for us to make a hayfield versus the amount of commercial, industrial projects coming in and, medium to large scale subdivisions coming in, and I weigh the two, I think that there's a need for the stormwater bylaw based on the sheer volume of new construction projects being proposed in this town that really need that kind of review.
Then if it came to the chair, there should be amendments in it, only if so many houses are being built or something like that. Why burden the local landowner?
If I can
Somebody that even has 5 acres.
Yeah, but let's just say, excuse me, through the chair, that you have a developer with 400 acres who's going to do 150 houses, they have to apply for that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 150, yeah, well, they even...
Whatever,
Right.
saying that, you're saying an individual buys an A&R lot, wants to put a house in, generally not clearing right away for the house an acre on a 2-acre lot, but eventually maybe if they put in a little...
Sure. Do a pool, they want to do a garden, put up a shed.
But if they do it...
Or in-law apartment
Yeah,
and
but
stuff
hold
like
on.
that.
If they build the house and they just serve a 1/4 acre for the house, and the house gets built, 5 years later, they do another 1/4 acre or 1/2 acre, it doesn't count.
I would agree with that.
Right. It's if they're gonna do, and generally, most of the homeowners are not clearing an acre of land to put a 30 by 40 house in, or a 24 by 40 house.
I wouldn't say that, because of your septic system and everything else nowadays. And while the equipment's there on your property, you know you're gonna try to do whatever you can.
But half the entire site.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
We get, that's a slippery slope.
Is it, so the clearing of the 1 acre is in totality at one time?
Yeah, I believe that. And keep in mind, to help you visualize, 1 acre is approximately 200 feet by 200 feet. Yeah.
And there's nothing if you have 5, 8, 10, and 12 acres.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean nothing.
But you could do less than an acre at one time, and then the next year you could do, or 3 months from then, you could do 3/4 of an acre?
I think the spirit of this whole, this whole endeavor is that when you get 200 feet by 200 feet open soil, that becomes the situation that you want to keep, track of. If you do it in smaller segments, it's more controllable. But when you get to that size, and not only that, but what's the long-term plan for stormwater? Because remember, when you take a forest and then you turn it into, field, it doesn't have the same runoff coefficient. There's more runoff, there's more water going off the site than if it's a completely forested area. So that's, what are you going to do about controlling that water, especially when you have more and more people occupying space in town, so that what one person does is more likely to affect their abutter or their neighbor, or even, down the street. So that's where the spirit of this is coming from.
And if I made that, you're suggesting, Brandon, that somebody who wants to bring a forester in and take half the woods down on his, is not disturbing, he's not disturbing, they're cutting, but they're not taking out they're not disturbing the actual soil, so that doesn't count.
Correct, and forestry, if it has an approved forest cutting plan,
No, actually, 61 is a tax incentive program. It's totally different. It's related to agriculture, but it's not actually, yeah, because so forestry with an approved forest cutting plan from the Department of Conservation and Recreation qualifies you as a subset of agriculture. So you would then have all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. Yeah. Now, if you're creating, even the roads, if they're temporary roads, and you have that approved forest cutting plan, then you're still exempt. But if you want to make those roads permanent, if you want to make a crossing permit, those, like crossing over a little brook or something like that, those are not exempt, even if you're doing the agriculture, because they're going to be there after the operation is done. All right, and that's part of the agricultural exemption if you read the wetlands regs. Yeah. So temporary associated with the forest cutting project, exempt if it's done in the right way. Any permanent structures or roadways that you want to build, not exempt, because they don't want to, otherwise you'd have to file with conservation, for example, for a permanent road, and they don't want people taking advantage of being, cute. If you get my drift.
So you're going to be at the town meeting too, to answer questions?
I have not been asked, but I got a feeling I better be there.
Well, if you're there, I would just wish you luck and as Stephen's familiar with this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of questions, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Ma'am, you're a new face. Are you here for something other than what we have on here?
No.
Waiting for me.
Okay. That's why you're a new face. Minutes. We have 2 in our packet for January 10th and January 24th.
Have time to review them.
Did you have?
Yeah, I have some minutes comments.
Okay.
Which one? 13?
Hold on. January 10th. I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written for January 10th, 2024.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. Greco, second by Mr. Zwicker. Any further discussion? Mr. Benoit, do you have anything on that? Okay. Any further discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, January 10th. January 20th.
There's another one here,
Yeah, 24th.
24th. Yeah, went through that, and it seems solid to me, so if nobody has any objection, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written for January 24th, 2024.
I'll second.
Made by Mr. Greco, second by Mr. Zwicker. Any further discussion? You abstained from this one, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, one abstention, Mr. Dorous.
So one of the things I learned is that even if you were not at the meeting, you don't have to abstain from the minutes if you reviewed them. So something I learned recently. But it's okay.
So you have to review the minutes and also review the tape and.
Right.
That's fair.
Okay.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to, just stick around, we got some stuff to sign. Actually, not much at all, so. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Made by Mr. Zwicker, second by Mr. Preston. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Gotta be quick in a second.